Someday you and I are going to be partners in our own company. We're going to have our own business and we're going to call it Hawksoft.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace.
If you're an agency owner and you're thinking about selling your agency or thinking about growing by acquisition, you need to know what Cake is all about. Cake is an online marketplace designed to help buyers and sellers strategically find each other. One of the worst things you can do if you're selling one of your most valuable assets is to only talk to one buyer. Cake allows you to anonymously list a book of business or a slice or your entire agency for sale, vet those opportunities, and make sure that you've created demand for your agency and therefore the highest possible price. If you're looking to grow by acquisition, it's hard to find opportunities. Cake simplifies that process for you. I highly recommend to many of my clients that are thinking about dipping their toe into buying or selling an agency to check out Cake.
Hey Mom, how's it going?
I'm having a really good day, Lindsay. How's your day going?
My day's good, except for some Wi-Fi challenges apparently, but I do this fun thing with my friends and family sometimes where I ask them what's their high, low buffalo of their day. And your buffalo is supposed to be something that's like weird or like not usual that happens in your day. So my high is a bunch of great podcasts today, learning from a lot of cool people in our industry. My low is that my AC's out and it's 100 degrees in Charleston, South Carolina today. But my buffalo is that the guy who came to fix our AC, thank God, used to live in our exact condo and was telling us that there used to be like Marilyn Monroe paintings everywhere in here, and was telling us all the different things like placed around the condo where he used to like have things. So that was kind of interesting, like seeing our condo through someone else's eyes of previous tenants.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I love that. That is awesome. Well, I also think it's a pretty good high that we get to have some awesome guests today. We are welcoming Sean and Paul Hawkins to the podcast today. They are the founders of Hawksoft. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, we love, love, love Hawksoft. I got to say, I get to work with a lot of Hawksoft agents in my line of work, and I'm really happy when they tell me they have Hawksoft because I know exactly the reports I need them to bring to me, and I know they're going to have access to the information I need to do my job. So, from me to you, thank you so much for making my life very, very easy and allowing me to do my job. There you go. That is fun. But I think you guys have a really cool story. I love that you guys are a family-owned business, which is unique. I would love for you guys to tell me, how did it even start? Like, why in the world did you decide that this was the industry and technology and an AMS was the thing you guys wanted to go do? Because I don't know your story, and I would love to put that out there.
Well, Sean, I'll start with it, okay? Because where it really starts is when Sean was in fifth grade, and his teacher called me up and said, "We have a problem with your son, Mr. Hawkins." I said, "What did he do?" And he says, "Oh, nothing wrong. He was just doing his homework upside down, left-handed. I think he's bored, and I think he could really use a computer. He would really be good at that." Now this is 1984. Yeah. Anyway, and he says, do you think you could buy him a computer? And I said, well, yeah, I'm kind of interested myself. He says, well, good. Here's a book. Don't buy any software. It was a programming book. And Sean and I, at that point, taught each other programming. And I truly mean we taught each other programming. And so we grew up different, Sean and I did, than most fathers and sons, because we grew up uh, helping, working with each other, and teaching each other things. And so that has made a big difference in our relationship also. But then we moved to Oregon.
Well, before we go there, so I would come home from school and I was so enthralled by programming, and I wanted to build games. I wanted games. My mom, she wanted a recipe program. She wanted a genealogy program. She wanted a check register. And these are things in 1984 that just they may have been out there, but again, we didn't buy any software. We had just a programming book. And so it was and what we found was that I would build a game, I'd play it a few times, and then oh, hey, I can build this other thing. And it was the building that was the fun part. That was the game for me. And then Paul, my dad was working really long hours at the time, and he'd come home and I'd show him what I had built, and then he'd stay up late and he'd learn a bunch of stuff and program stuff, and we went back and forth teaching each other this programming, how to program.
So then we moved. That we were in Spokane, Washington at the time, and then we moved to the Portland area, Canby, Oregon, and I worked in Tualatin, Oregon, and in a for a company that imported cheeses and distributed deli products to restaurants and delis and things like that. And we'd bring in brie from France. We brought cheeses in from Italy, Greece, Germany, all over the world. And every once in a while, one of the pallets of cheese would go bad because it didn't get used in the right order. And I said, "Hey, Sean, I got another project we can do." And because he was always looking for something to do, he wrote most of it. I wrote some of it. And then we took that to my boss. Now, at this time, he's in eighth grade. And just at the end of eighth grade, and by the time we gave it to him, he was a freshman in high school. Well, I gave it to my boss, and he was just ecstatic. He says, "Paul, I had just gone out and had a quote had done to have this software written, and it was too expensive. That wouldn't fit in the budget." But he says, "And yours actually does more than what we actually asked for." He says, I've got to pay you for something for this." He gave me a sizable check. And I still remember that I took it home, showed it to Sean, and Sean's got great big. "Dad, someday you and I are going to be partners in our own company. We're going to have our own business, and we're going to call it Hawksoft."
And I thought I was really cool, a big time nerd. No one would talk to me at school. I don't know. It was just kind of weird.
I was working super long hours, was really sick and tired of the job other than doing that. And my friend talked me into becoming an insurance agent. And
Okay.
I was started off captive. And of course, I had my company's computer right in front of me. I knew what was going
Right.
on. And then, of course, they kept on changing my contract. And every time I thought I was making money, they would change my contract. And so I left there and my friend then talked me into joining a big agency, independent agency. And I'm going like, "Oh man, there's no technology here at all." In fact, the reason they hired me because I was a computer nerd, and they wanted to computerize their big agency. And we had 15 offices at the time and stuff, and I connected everything with all the software with for them, and got everybody on computers and stuff. And that's where it started. And then we started writing some more projects and wrote things for the agency. And all of a sudden, our agent friends said, "Hey, I want that too." And here we are in the software business 30 years later.
So just for perspective, Hawksoft was born in 1995. Is that correct? What was the
That was when we had our first 2 sales.
Okay. What was the landscape like at that time? Like what other players were in the market doing this at the time? I think I know the answer, but you tell me what was available besides what you were building.
Applied, Vertifor, a couple others. I can't think of the name. Redshaw was still being used.
Sajida.
Pardon me?
Sajida.
Yeah. But very, very, very. You know,
what we found.
basically those systems started off as accounting systems and they added
Um,
insurance onto them, where we started off as an insurance system and added accounting onto it.
And I think one of the big things we found is that the larger agencies back then had technology, but the smaller agencies didn't. In fact, many of the offices we walked into, we helped them set up their first network. We're the ones that helped set up and configure their first server. Before that, they had a computer, but it wasn't for, they just didn't, things weren't networked. And so we spent a lot of time just helping people get set up on the internet. Quite frankly, those were hard days, but fun days. Everything was done. Paul would actually travel to all in person to all of the agencies and actually install the software, train in person, set the software up. And at the time, my brother-in-law and I were the ones back at the office at home, because the home office at the time, we were coding, we were supporting the software. We were and Paul at the time was still working for this agency while he was still traveling and training and installing our software. So it was interesting times.
It's funny. My first career was with a software company called CA. I'm sure you know that they're basically just a conglomerate of software. All they do at the time, were buying things and trying to fit them together over and over. So when you said the other software that was out there was accounting software that bolted insurance on, and you all were not that. It's interesting, like fast forward to today, they're all trying to do the same things, but they're doing it in different ways. But there's a lot of challenges with the bolt ons, especially in an organization where the software isn't a straight line. It's not like it's the same. So in CA, you could buy software and think you're buying another CA product, but it was completely different because it was via an acquisition, and over and over and over again, where there was no straight line. That's also happened in our industry as we go through these last period of time. That's not true for you guys. You guys have been one company the whole time. Is that accurate? That's the evolution.
Yeah, it's accurate. It's accurate. We've been one company the whole time. And we always said that if functionality is part of the core feature, the core need of an agency, you know, the core needs of an agency have changed. When I was first in the agency, we had yellow pages. The marketing has totally changed. We said if it's a core feature of the agency, it should be in the main software. But then we also work with all the insurtechs out there and do with our API and anything that makes sense. But there again, there's where the rub sometimes is. It's a bit of a problem, because now I'm an agent and I've got 3 different bolt-ons, if you will, and this one, and they overlap a bit. Where do I do what? And it makes it very, very difficult for the agent to really kind of decipher where they need to go in their agency, and sometimes it causes a lot of consternation and confusion in the agency on their workflows and things.
A great example of that is text messaging. I mean, we have text messaging in our software, but a lot of phone systems have text messaging, and a lot of the CRMs that we integrate with also have text messaging. And so where do you live for text messaging? Just as an example.
Yeah. So when you guys first started out, there was not a lot happening in the industry overall for technology. How have you seen that change over time? I mean, the boom we're seeing right now with the rise in indie tech, and there even being specifically an accelerator in 101 Weston Labs for indie tech specifically. How are you seeing that change the landscape, even in what you guys are looking at doing?
Well, again, going back to our story when I first became an insurance agent, I mean, it was a technology desert. We were still getting mail, the customers' mail in the agency in big baskets, and we'd have to restuff the envelopes and send them out. We didn't have the internet. I still remember when Progressive sent us the first modem. that we could
Modem.
upload. Yeah, a modem. They sent us a modem, and it would all of a sudden you plug into it and it would go, and it was weird. But at least then we thought, wow, this is amazing.
So that was like each carrier would send you a modem, and that's how you would connect into each
No,
carrier?
not each carrier. Progressive
Oh,
at the
okay.
time was really forward thinking in their technology, and they realized that most of these small insurance agencies didn't have a way of connecting out to pre-internet, didn't have a way of connecting out to these sites, and so so Progressive would actually send out modems to help agencies connect so that they could
So they could upload and didn't have to physically send the application in anymore.
Got it.
Now, I want to back up to our journey. Our first software that we actually wrote was an application software. Sean wrote a language, and we were able to duplicate, take off the shelf all the applications for all the different companies and digitize them and make them into the application that we could then do electronically and print out the application with the data on it, and then we'd send that in, and that was our first start. That's what we did, the very first piece of software that we wrote, and we were the first ones in the country to do that. We weren't enough of a business people to understand what we had at the time, but that's how we got started.
Gotcha. So a burning question, which this might derail our conversation a little bit, which I'm all right. But so you said when you guys fell in love with coding, you decided you would name your company Hawksoft that you grew. So why was it this idea that you decided to name Hawksoft and not any of the other? Because you guys have talked about so many other ideas of things that you've grown or created. Why was it this that you decided to name Hawksoft?
Well, that was Sean.
Yep.
That was totally him. And of
Okay.
course, there was Microsoft,
Oh.
and we were Hawkins. So
Oh,
Yeah. In fact, the
got
original name. So as a very geeky ninth grader, I carried around a little black notebook, and unfortunately, I don't have it with me today, but I actually have it at my other office. And on it, I drew a hawk, and I actually said a Hawkins and Hawkins Computer Associates Hawksoft underneath it. And I used to carry that around, thinking I was really cool stuff. And again, nobody would talk to me. I don't know
So
why.
the reality is, I mean, a ninth grader is the one that named arguably one of the fastest growing, AMS systems in the industry at the moment. I don't know if that you're the fastest growing. It feels that way to me, only because based on the people that are utilizing it, and you serve a part of the market. I think you have customers all across the market. There's no two ways around that. But you also recognized at the time that you decided to build Hawksoft that the larger agencies had Vertafore or Applied or whatever they were using, Sajita, whatever it was. And there's this whole segment that didn't have anything. I love that a ninth grader is the one that named that product. That's how cool is that, right? That's pretty incredible. Was the market the same then as it is now, where 83% are, under, I don't, right now, 83% are actually under $1 million in revenue in our industry right now. Was it the same stratification, or was it more diverse?
No, I don't think the profile of the industry has changed all that much. We have a lot more bigger agencies, but every time there's an M&A and one agency gobbles up another agency, some of those people take off and they start their own agency. And I mean, we constantly got people start up agencies, one user, two users, and even though with all the M&A going on, it's still the numbers across the industry is still pretty. Agency numbers are still pretty steady.
Yeah. So Sean, I want to ask you a question. I grew up and I moved around. So like my parents were my constant or my cousins were my constant. And I would have given my right arm to actually start a business with my dad. He was the person I idolized the most in my life. So tell me what it's like from a very early age coming up with something, and you've really never. I'm maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but you've never worked any other place other than a family business. Is that accurate?
Not quite,
Oh,
but close.
okay.
Yes. Right out of high school, I actually worked for a company called AutoTime, where I actually learned the technology that Hawksoft started with. In fact, at the time that we were building that, I was working there. I went to my boss and told him, "Hey, what you're doing doesn't work," is what he was trying to do. It just anyway, I won't get into that. But the insurance space needs this technology. What do you think about my dad's an agent? What do you think about partnering with him and going after the insurance space? And my boss was like, you know what? I'm not interested. If you and your dad want to go do that, go do that. And so that's really where that we're like, okay, let's give it a go. Let's try it. But I think in answer to your question, though, it's I, it's an awesome experience to work with my dad. In fact, oftentimes it's funny because I call him Paul, just because it's weird calling him dad around some other people. I call him Paul all the time. I think, but it's just an amazing experience. And I think it comes back from that mutual respect, in that we both have things that we're both good at, independent, and together we feed off each other. And it's just been a really really great. Yeah.
He still calls his mother mom, though.
No. Carol.
I try calling my mom Carey, and she gets very upset with me when I do that. But we'll get there eventually, right,
I
Carey?
don't think so. It's not going to happen. Nope, it's not going to happen. So,
It's funny to be on professional meetings and say my mom, but it happens way more often than people would normally expect. My friends who are not in the insurance industry are always like you talk about your mom so much when you're at work, and I'm like, how could I not? She's the best.
You know,
Yeah.
that's interesting though, because you just said something that is so prevalent in this industry and so wonderful part of this industry is family businesses is predominant in this
mhm,
industry.
it
Family
is.
businesses in this, and that to me is the reason that there's so much feeling in this industry. Uh, I love this industry. I love the people in this industry. I love what they do, how they serve their communities, and this is my passion. This industry is my passion.
So can I feed off that? It's interesting is that we're talking about the program and everything else, and sometimes our development team takes a little bit of offense at this, but our number one product is not our management system. Our number one focus is our people, and it's people. It's about relationships, and we let them know all the time that our people are most important, um, are most important to us. And as we treat them that way, it's amazing to see that they all step up, and we just have amazing people, both as employees, but also just with our customers, with the vendors that we associate with. They're just amazing people. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We get so caught up in the technology, we get so caught up in business, that we forget that it's ultimately about people.
I couldn't agree more. I have to say, if someone would have asked me when I was in ninth grade if insurance was the industry I was going to go into, I would have said, I don't know what insurance is. Like, I have no
Right.
idea what that is, right? And even I started in a technology startup myself. It was a hardware technology startup, but um, even then, I would have never told you my next step would have been insurance. But the number one thing that kept me here, Sean, is people. Like 100%. Once you come in here and you meet some of these incredible entrepreneurs, people that are so passionate about their communities. I literally was just at a flag day in Connecticut that thousands of people came to in this little small town, and it's 100% because there's an independent insurance agency that brought them all together. Or, like, it's crazy. It is always about people. I could not agree more. But our industry's changing, and I'd love to get your thoughts on what does that look like in the future? Because you guys here, you've seen it for a really long time, but the reality is our entire society is changing. We want things fast now, whatever. I firmly believe the independent agent of the future is the one that can marry relationships, data, and technology. But from your perspective, what do you think that's actually going to translate into for the next 10 to 15 years? I'd love to hear what both of you guys think about that.
Well, I look at this and it's the relationships, and I always say that if the software doesn't support the relationship, get rid of it. And I think that a few years ago we saw with the online came in with the new technologies and stuff, and the independent agency size kind of dwindled, and everybody was saying the independent agent is the dinosaur. They're going to go away, and now we're seeing it swing back because even the millennials and the new generations, once they get to a certain point, they realize, yeah, I still want the relationship. Even the millennials are saying, I still want the relationship. And so, yeah, it's going to be a marriage of relationships with technology, and the technology again has to support the relationship. Otherwise, it isn't any good.
Sean, what do you think it's going to look like in the next 10 years? Like, if you were Lindsay and you were looking out and saying, what is this industry going to morph and shape and look like, knowing where it's been and where it's going? If you had a crystal ball, what do you think it's going to look like?
I think we continue to see more automations. We continue to see just things that are more real time than they ever have been in the past. In fact, I remember that the initiative about 10 or 15 years ago called real time. And we still have never really gotten there, in my opinion. We still send endorsements in, and it's not an instant back. There's some carriers doing it, but many that are not.
And John,
Yeah.
the big word in this industry is follow-ups. I mean, we are the follow-up industry. We're going to do something, and we have to follow up on it because it's not done yet. And a dear friend of mine, Frank Sentner, coined a phrase a number of years ago when he built that one of his first systems. He called it immediate work completion. That was his goal. And I just saw a year ago or so at one of the technology shows where they were in a system, they did a change, it went to the carrier, and immediately the download came back. Done. Immediate work completion. That's one of the things that's going to happen. That's one of the things that we're working very, very hard on with a lot of different carriers that we want to make happen, so that we spend so much time, we spin our wheels so much on follow-ups.
Well, we've built so many technologies in order to empower ourselves to not have like the mental load of the follow-ups. Like, think about agencies, like tools like Agency Zoom or HubSpot or even Hawksoft. In times, like, we build tools in order to remind us to follow up on things.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I think?
So,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
no, like, an industry itself has enabled it. So now we have to fix it and make it not so, is just what I was going to add.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've seen over the years where there are a lot of startup tech companies. And then what happens is that because they're doing something that the main management system's not doing, they see a need, and you'll have these startups that address the need. And then eventually the management systems go, you know what, that is now really should be part of the core part of the system. And they get whether it's through acquisition or through development in the product itself, it becomes part of the core. And we see so we see that consolidation back into the management system, and then another need, and you'll have and more startups. And we're starting to see that with AI right now. There's a lot of stuff around AI that's happening right now where the needs, and we're not sure where all that's going to land, where it's going to ultimately help and land. So there's that kind of waiting period to see what really is part of the core and what's not. Go ahead, Paul.
Years ago, as an example for that, scanning. We were actually the first management system to actually internalize scanning in our own system. The other ones had these bolt-ons, but now every system's got scanning. That's a core feature.
And now it's almost not even used.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Right. Going away, you hardly see it at all.
Yeah. So I think we all can agree the future's pretty bright, but if you're not evolving and you're not changing, it's going to be difficult to stay in line with the changes that agency owners and agents have to make in order to evolve with their customers. Like, there's no two ways around it. This hard market is teaching a lot of people the way we've always done it is not the way that we can continue to do it. And go ahead, Paul.
Well, the other thing is that another big change in what we're doing right now in the industry was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
The small town agent that was just rural realized that they can now work way outside of what used to be their sphere. Their sphere has totally changed because of COVID.
Yeah.
So,
and it's changed the hiring market. It's changed employment. It's changed the thought process of working remote. And in fact, I was just with two agents in Kansas talking about, well, never, never, never. And the reality is you're competing with those that will. So the evolution of what you need to be willing to do is moving. And not only do people have to keep up with it, but technology has to keep up with it, and they have to do it in tandem. No question about it. So, well, I'd like to do a little game to close this down. So Lindsay started us off with the high-low buffalo, right? And I think we should all share in what our high-low buffalo is of today, and then we'll close it up with people that can reach out to you guys. So Sean, why don't you lead us off? What is your high-low buffalo of the day?
Oh, wow. My high, low, and buffalo.
You had to have a good part of your day today. Come on.
Yeah, no, I think this is one of my highs right here, just talking with you guys. It's just amazing to connect with great people, and an industry and a topic that I feel passionate about. I think I don't know if I have a low yet today.
That's okay. No problem.
I'll
Yeah.
the low.
Good day.
Good day.
You have air conditioning, right? And you have Wi-Fi, so this is good.
That's right.
Yeah. There you go. You're a happy cat.
How about you, Paul? Do you have a high or low? Yeah.
Well, I was in a meeting this morning with some of my people.
Yeah.
And anytime that I am talking to my people, that's always a high for me. Yesterday we had our what we call our all hands meeting. Because of COVID, we've had to really, and we had COVID, we sent everybody home. Now we've got employees in like 23 different states. And so we've had to make some changes, and we've had to do some things different. We've had to double down on our meetings and how we interact with our people. And we have such wonderful, wonderful people. Anytime I get to meet with them, it's always a high. And of course, my low today was I had problems with my irrigation system today. So I've been doing some rewiring this morning. So
there you go. There
Awesome.
you go.
Wow.
Well, it was great to have you guys on. Something we always also close with is if someone wants to reach out to you and pick your guys' ear on something, or they just found something particularly interesting, where can they reach you?
On our website,
Yeah.
Our numbers are there. In fact, they can even pull up our email addresses, all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
Call us, email us. We'd love to have a conversation.
And they can look at our story.
Yeah.
Our full story, Hawksoft story is there on the website. And Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, thank you both for being here with us. I really appreciate it. You guys are great. And I love seeing a father-son we see it all the time throughout the industry. It's fantastic that it's also a father-son and a family business at your level as well. So I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully this fall at the Owners Conference as well. So I will see you then, okay?
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.